it could be the perfect recipe for an absolute virtuoso performance. And that should give Chiefs fans great excitement because it really could happen, guys. I cannot stress enough.
Thanks for listening to KC Sports Network, proudly presented by Emprise Bank. If you're thinking about starting a business or know someone who is, check out Emprise Bank's SBA loans. It's always good to know your options, and they can be your partner in possible.
5 things to watch here on KC Sports Network, getting you ready for the final game of the season. The Super Bowl. Cannot wait. So excited. You're going to hear from a variety of voices here at KC Sports Network with different things to watch in this game. But I am here, as always, kicking this thing off with Matthew Lane. Maddie, we are so close to watching this team play again in another Super Bowl. How you feeling?
Listen, I'm excited that we're doing this. I mean, this is like the season cap on 5 things, which is always sad to be done, doing one of these shows, but it's also the Super Bowl, right? It's not too difficult to not be upset that you're doing the final 5 things for the big game, for the Super Bowl, with the chance to go out on the three-peat. I'm excited. I'm here. I am ready to get to this game here in a couple of days. And so I think it's time and we jump into this. We start talking about some stuff here.
Yeah, it's a 20 game or 20 show season of 5 things here. And because the Chiefs got the bye and they only had to play 3 playoff games and all of that good stuff. But yeah, you're going to hear from Tucker D. Franklin and Matt Vararam. You're going to be hearing from Benny's picks. You're going to hear from the fellas at Only Weird Games as well. But we are kicking you off with 2 things today. Matt Hamilton, you normally hear from in this show. He's been dealing with some illnesses and all that kind of stuff. We wish our guy the best. Matterdays. Well,
you know who else we wish the best? Batchelder Family Farms.
We absolutely do. That is a great pull from you, Matthew Lane. I know you are a big fan of all their meats. I know I'm a big fan.
Bison, meat, jerkies, bisons. I get some sausages coming in there. It's a little bit of everything. It's a little bit of everything that I want. Get it anytime I get a chance to. When I've gotten some in the house, it does not last very long whatsoever. When I am back nearby, I have to stop in. It's amazing. I cannot believe I can't show them enough love here.
Oh, they're absolutely incredible. They were doing some work when the Chiefs had beef with the Bills. By the way, you can order Batchelder's fresh farm raised products online in just a few clicks. And you can also find their bison at the Overland Park Farmers Market on Saturdays, where they sell their pasture raised beef, bison, and jerky and eggs. And finally, visit their farm store for the freshest cuts and other locally sourced products Wednesday through Saturday, 10 a.m. to 5 p.m. at 20810 South Prospect Avenue in Belton, Missouri. All right. We'll get into these things to watch, and we'll start with stopping Saquon Barkley. I feel like that is one of the biggest storylines in this game. There's a lot of questions about if the Chiefs are going to be able to do it. We went back and forth earlier this week about so Saquon versus stopping the pass and all that kind of stuff. I don't know, man. Stopping Saquon is going to be a big factor in this game, Matthew.
Yeah, I mean, it's obviously going to matter. It's a big key part of this. And the good news is, as Chiefs fans, Steve Spagnuolo has not allowed a 100-yard rusher in the playoffs during his tenure with the Kansas City Chiefs. That's a big number to note, right? And so Saquon Barkley is obviously going to be trying to go over that. I think it's going to be pivotal for this Eagles offense that he does. And there's no magic number, but it's pivotal for this Eagles offense that they can run it through Saquon Barkley and not have to put everything on the shoulders of Jalen Hurts to repeat his performance from 2 years ago in the Super Bowl against the Chiefs, because he just hasn't quite played like that player this year. So yeah, you're hoping as the Eagles that you get to ride Saquon Barkley, you get to give the ball to him a ton, and he can break off these big, long, explosive plays, keep the Eagles in 3rd and short, 4th and inches, so they can get the tush-push action going on and see where it goes. Well, if you're the Chiefs, you got to figure out a way to stop it. And we've gone through a bunch of different ways, all week about doing it. And I guess a couple things keep coming up to me. The Eagles don't run a lot of 21 personnel. They don't put a fullback in the backfield a ton. And when they do, they're pretty mediocre at it because it's not like a true fullback. So that's a big boon to the Chiefs because that's one of the formations that they really struggle to defend the run against. And the number 2 thing is a lot of what the Eagles do is finding explosive runs, especially against single high coverages. Like when it's just a single deep safety, that's where Saquon breaks off a lot of these explosive runs. Well, the Chiefs are going to sit back in too high, and they're going to close down onto the line of scrimmage, and that kind of just takes away the angle breaking ability that Saquon Barkley has if you're keeping that shell in the run game on top of him. It's kind of like the similar concept to what everybody does against the pass these days. You almost have to play Saquon Barkley as a runner the same way, and the Chiefs already function their defense that way. So I'm not saying it's a good matchup for the Chiefs, but I do think there's a couple things that do lean to their favor a little bit in trying to slow down Saquon Barkley.
I don't think the Chiefs are going to all full scale stop him. Like, I think he's going to get his. There's going to be possessions where he gets his, but I think there's got to be more variance to what happens in the run game for the Philadelphia Eagles. It can't just be 4 yards a clip, 5 yards a clip, and continuing to put themselves in these advantageous situations where they're just able to tush push or, play that four down football. They have to have some flashes of creating negative plays in the run game. And they have to eliminate those explosives, right? Like those two things have to happen. So like there's got to be variance. The variance cannot be touchdowns of 30, 40, 50 plus yards. You've got to force the length of the field and good things will happen. And you've got to find a way to create some negative plays, I think, in the run game. I think some early run blitzing to just kind of get downhill and try to, change the line of scrimmage, create traffic at the line of scrimmage behind it, forcing Saquon Barkley to make decisions and try to have to work through, some difficult traffic on the other side of the line of scrimmage. Like, I think that all matters. And so like, they're going to have to dictate some terms from time to time, I think, with this run game and be aggressive and run blitz and mix some things up just to try to create some negatives there.
Yeah, I definitely think they'll do plenty of run blitzing. They have done that numerous times in the past when the run defenses, I don't want to say struggling, but like been on their heels a little bit, and they've kind of struggled to find their footing and really put up like a strong front against it, and they're giving up yards. They'll start sending those linebackers on run blitzes. If they have, if it ends up being a passing play, so what? They'll live with that in that scenario. So I expect to see a lot of that. We talked about it. I wonder if you see some more 5 down fronts from the Chiefs. They just get 5 guys along the line of scrimmage, or go the other way and go with like their 3-3-5 defense with only 3 defensive linemen, but 3 off-ball linebackers and still stay in that 2 high shell just to, kind of play with the angles that the Eagles are looking for in the run game. Make sure you're corralling everything Saquon Barkley does so you don't give him those big creases to put a bunch of defenders behind him. Like that's what they're trying to get through with some of his runs. So I'm intrigued to see how the Chiefs go about it. I think that it will be a tough task, but again, Steve Spagnuolo has always been up for it. I feel like they are going to come out to sell out a little bit to stop this run and make Jalen Hurts beat them. And I think that means it's going to be big, important game for Mike Pennell, who's been a monster versus the run all year. Big game for Derek Nottie, who's also had some great plays, great stretches down the stretch here against the run. Getting both those guys on the field at the same time will probably, be things that we do see from time to time. It limits your pass rush, but against this Eagles team, you might have to live in that world a little bit. So those 2 big nose tackles potentially playing together is another curveball we could see come out there.
Yeah, I think Steve Spagnuolo we talk about variance. I think he'll mix up how he attacks this defense. He's going to give them a variety of looks. He's going to have some things at his disposal to try to get into to help slow this run game out and try to force Jalen Hurts to try to beat him. Okay, let's move on to the thing number 2. Last week or 2 weeks ago against the Washington Commanders, Philadelphia Eagles, Washington Commanders game. The Eagles gave up an 18-play, 54-yard drive to open the game. It led to a field goal. But that's not really what I was wanting to talk about. When you look at that, the Washington Commanders dropped back 15 times in the 18 plays of that drive. They were trying to throw the football. They were trying to drop back and throw the football, and they just had to throw it short. They had to throw to the flats. They had to get the ball out of their hands quickly, try to slow that pass rush down. The ball was out quick. And when, Jalen Daniels was having to scramble from time to time when the ball wasn't out quick. The quick passing game is something that the Philadelphia Eagles invite a little bit. They want to play a little bit more top down. They're going to play disciplined football, and you're going to have to make quick decisions. You're going to have to get the ball out of your hands quickly. That's probably beneficial to the offensive line and to the passing game for the Chiefs. We anticipate a pretty good amount of quick game and quick passing game for the Chiefs here, Maddie, right?
Yeah, when it goes even beyond just that Washington game, if you go back and see how the Packers had success or the Rams had success before the snow really laid in and Matt Stafford couldn't, move quickly because of the rib injury, those two teams were having success the same way. The quarterback hits the back of his drop and he's off his back foot and he is making the throw immediately. You're not sitting back there trying to read it out. You're not giving that Eagles defensive line, which maybe has been a smidgen overrated in the 2 weeks leading up to this game, but it's still very good. You're not giving them time to get home. You're taking advantage of the space that is created because when Fangio is sitting there playing, quarter halves or just cover four, all those DBs are bailing out a little bit. They're all protecting the deep ball first, and they're going to come downhill second to make the tackle. That usually is only going to leave you 3 underneath zone defenders, and it's pretty easy to stretch them out. It's pretty easy to stress them horizontally across the field, especially when you have a mastermind like Andy Reid. And this is exactly how this Chiefs offense functions. Look at what they did to the Bills. Look at what they did to the Texans. Look at their good games at the end of the year against the Texans and the Steelers. That's exactly what they do. They want to use the quick passing game over the middle of the field to the sideline. It doesn't matter. They will mix it up, and they're just going to attack that space that the Eagles are essentially giving you. So, yeah, I think that is the best way to attack them. The Eagles' defense has been phenomenal at not giving up explosive plays. The Chiefs' offense has been pretty bad at finding explosive plays, especially through the air. So you're going to have to utilize that sustained success model that we've seen the Chiefs transition to. Well, kind of because of Vic Fangio when he was in the conference, and then his defensive scheme kind of spread across the NFL, but also from 2022 on, this has been the Chiefs' specialty. This has been their fastball. It'll be interesting to see how much the Eagles let them sit on it versus try to mix things up. But that defense usually doesn't mix up a lot of stuff. Fangio likes to sit in his way. So it's an interesting chess match that might not involve a lot of chess.
This is why, how the Chiefs have gone about their season can matter too, right? Because, this team has won a variety of ways. They've been willing to take what defense has given them. They've been willing to drive the length of the field and just play different styles of football and being so well versed in it at this point. If the Chiefs are able to get some of the quick passing game going and some of those easy looks, that can be quite beneficial to them. If they are, able to continue to do what they've been doing. I look at, Zach Ertz had 66 catches on the season. He had 11 catches against the Eagles in that game against the Commanders against the Eagles. He only had 12 the rest of the month of January. So Zach Ertz was a guy that was over the middle of the field, over the football, in the flat very frequently. And Jane Daniels kept just peppering, giving him opportunities. I think there's some chance. And Ertz and Travis Kelce, both reliable targets. They probably are making about as many people miss right now. Although, you never know. You never know. Maybe Travis got a few guys, a few tricks up his sleeves in this game. But I could see Travis Kelce getting some volume over the middle of the field. I could see Juju Schuster getting some over the middle of the field. Also curious if they get the backs out and try to throw to the flats, because that's something that's where the Eagles, or where the Commanders were peppering the ball a little bit. Against this Eagle passing attack. The problem for that is, just in general, is part of the reason you can play the way that you play for the Eagles is that they're very, very good tacklers. And they're bringing this is one of the better tackling teams in the National Football League.
For sure. They, I think, are fourth in tackling on short passes. The Chiefs are first. So fun matchup there on the other side of the ball. But they're very good at it, but they do give it up. And if you look at the playoffs, they are second out of all teams in the playoffs. Granted, they've seen more dropbacks than everybody else, but they are second in all teams in the playoffs and giving up yards after the catch right now. And it's not that they're giving up, extra. It's not that they're missing tackles. They just are willing to give up these short passes that we've been talking about. They're giving up over 100 yards, per yards after the catch per game in the playoffs through their 3 games. And you can go look, and the Packers kind of threw the ball everywhere. They went to the sideline. They went over the middle of the field. The Rams mostly went to the sideline. Then you saw the Washington Commanders, and they kind of went over the middle of the field. So each team's kind of found a different way to attack them underneath to have some success. They haven't. The Eagles defense is very good. You're not going to run them off the field, but each team has found a little bit of success doing this. Now you're going to give the best passing offense in this regard, the best quick passing offense in the NFL. If you're going to let them do that, I feel like you're going to find success. And we saw it against the Bills. Opening drive, a lot of RPOs throwing the ball over the middle of the field. Third drive of the game, all of a sudden now we're just taking the free 8 yards every time on these little boundary, little out routes and little just stop routes on the boundary. I have seen both of those things work against the Eagles numerous times here in the postseason because they are playing with such a deep, hard shell on that defensive coverage. So I think there's going to be space for the Chiefs to manipulate. You just got to be patient. consistent and not make mistakes and execute play after play. And that is something I do think that Patrick Mahomes and this Chiefs offense is ready to do because they've been doing it for 3 years now.
Yeah, and I would say, like, the biggest piece of concern I think I've had, one of the biggest pieces of concern I've had for this game, ball security with some of these receivers, especially, if you're going to throw a hitch route to Xavier Worthy, like, he's shown to be loose with the ball at times. He's got to be very good about protecting the football because this team is good at getting that ball out, punching the ball out. Hollywood Brown, same thing. Ball security is going to be crucial. These are smaller receivers. These aren't big receivers. If you're not being able to utilize your speed as much in the open field, you've got to be really good about protecting the ball when you're getting those opportunities underneath, because the Eagles have proven to make you pay if you don't.
Yeah, and the Chiefs got to utilize the speed of him and Hollywood Brown so they can continue to stress them horizontally so that you open up Zach Bond, Oren Burks, Reed Blankenship, whoever's coming down to play those middle of the field zones. You want to put them in as much space as possible for Kelsey, for Juju Smith-Schuster. So you can't shy away from those fast guys that maybe have had questionable ball control. You do got to get them chances, but they got to make sure they hold on to it, especially in such a big game. I mean, speaking of big game, especially between these two teams, is a little bit of a rematch. So I think it's time to head over to Tucker and Matty V, and they talk about the beef between these two teams heading to the Super Bowl rematch.
Beef of the week here on Five Things. Tucker Franklin hanging out at Media Row with Matt Verderam here as we do our beef of the week, sponsored by Batch Elder Family Farms. Look, big beef going on, so you got to get your beef bundles at batchelderfamilyfarms.com. They got you covered for the big game. Go check them out, batchelderfamilyfarms.com, 2810 out there in Belden. I forgot the address as I was reading it because we're doing this off the cuff, Matt. We're live here in Media Row, and we're talking about if this beef is still good between the Eagles and the Chiefs.
Good beef, big beef, rancid beef, who the hell knows, but it's beef.
It is beef.
And as far as in Belton, listen, you got Google, right?
Yeah, Google it.
Come on. You got hands. You're watching this on your phone, for God's sake. Listen, I think for the Eagles, this is still legitimate beef.
Oh, yeah.
Right? Like, they still have 20 players from that team, including a lot of the big guys. The A.J. Browns, the Jalen Hurts, and so on and so forth. For the Chiefs, I think it's more like their beef this week is probably just sick and tired of hearing about everything under the sun that doesn't involve football.
Right, yeah.
But for the Eagles, the beef is absolutely like, this team got us 2 years ago. We got to get them. The bad news for the Eagles is there have been 5 instances like this in Super Bowl history, and the team that won the first one won the second one. So they're working against history. And I would say that this Chiefs team matches up fairly well with them. So we shall see. But, yeah, I think it's significant beef.
I do, too. It really seems like the Eagles are very respectful of the Chiefs, obviously, and what they've been able to do. I've noticed that they haven't really given a whole lot of ammunition, right? We didn't have a whole lot of beef of week to talk about, right? When it comes to opening night, you kind of anticipate some bulletin board material to come out there. There really wasn't from either side. I think they know what they're going up against. They're well aware of everything. And I think that, both teams are very businesslike in terms of their approach. They've been here before. They've done it, as you mentioned, with the experience on both sides. They've got a lot of Super Bowl experience between these two teams. But I do 100% agree with you. Like, I do think this is a very legitimate beef. I think that the Eagles want to get back at the Chiefs, and it's pretty evident. I think when you see just like the demeanor of kind of how they have carried themselves so far down here in New Orleans, which has been interesting to see the dynamics between the two separate teams and just how they're going about things and preparing for this.
Well, I think every Super Bowl also takes on its own personality. Like 2 years ago, it was the Kelsey Bowl. That's what everybody talked about. Last year, we spent a week talking about how the Niners thought their field wasn't any good.
Right.
And that was the entire week. We said the Niners are screwed, and how could they possibly practice on this field? And this isn't okay. And that was the entire week. This week is pretty subdued, I think, comparatively. A lot of it's just like, hey, can the Chiefs make history?
Yeah.
That really is it. Like, nationally, I think the main topic of conversation is, can they do something nobody's ever done before? And yet, I think that's where the Chiefs' residual beef comes in with some of this stuff, is like, hey, who's your favorite official?
Yeah.
We're talking off air. Some people, listen, getting hit's not the worst thing's ever happened.
Yeah.
Okay? Like, I just imagine both these teams they just want to play the game.
Right.
You know, they've been here.
Yeah.
They've done this. Like, yeah, there are some new players on both sides, but like especially the Chiefs. My God, it feels like every other team's got like 8 Super Bowl rings at this point. So,
Yeah.
you know, I mean, the Chiefs just almost built in. You're like, all right, don't take vacation yet because we got a game February 9th to go. Yeah, okay, right. No, don't worry about that. Like I was watching the Pro Bowl because I was forced to cover it by Sports Illustrated. I'm about to go on strike.
Apologize.
I sent a strongly worded letter.
Yeah.
But I was sitting there thinking, like, I haven't watched one of these in forever because the Chiefs, like,
Never.
they're never in the game.
Right.
Like, and then, like, the Bills are tweeting out, it's game day. You know, this is the saddest thing in the world. Like, that is a terrorist attack against your own fan base. Right? Like,
That is.
unbelievable. But yeah, look, I think the Eagles have beef trying to get that revenge. The Chiefs have beef with, hey, look, we've heard enough of all this BS all week long. Let's just go out and play the game.
Interesting. You mentioned about the field. I'd be remiss if I didn't bring this up. Niners obviously complaining about their field all of last year.
Right.
The Chiefs are practicing on a grass field that was put in by Tulane on top of their stadium playing surface. So, like, do something about it, I guess. Like, if you're the Niners, like, do something about it if you don't like it. Also, what foresight by the Chiefs to be like, yeah, we're gonna need a grass field. That doesn't happen over.
They probably asked, like, in August. Like, oh, we're going to be there.
Like, hey, so I know we're probably going to be the away team too, so, like, go ahead. We're probably going to get Tulane.
Let's get
So
this
go
done.
ahead and schedule this out. They just had a snowstorm here too, so it's really an impressive feat by the Tulane equipment staff and everybody. But
It's true.
yeah, that's going to do it for our beef of the week. Go check out batchelderfamilyfarms.com and Google them, Batchelder Family Farms, to get your beef ready for the big game. That's going to do it for us here at Media Row in New Orleans. We'll send it back to you.
Thank you, fellas. Yeah, no, big matchup coming back between these two teams. You wonder if there's going to be a little bit of feistiness going on like there was last year in the 49ers Chiefs kind of rematching from the Super Bowl years past. I wonder if you see the same in the first quarter of this one. So now we got 2 more things to talk about here, but first we're going to hit a quick break.
Shop Chiefs tickets and more with no fees. Plus, save big with code KCSN at ticketsforless.com, the official ticket provider of KC Sports Network.
And welcome back to 5 Things, our final 5 Things of the year as we break down the Super Bowl matchup between the Chiefs and the Eagles. You were hearing 5 different things from multiple different personalities across the KC Sports Network, and we are ready to go over, get them picks right, get the pins, get the papers out. We got Benny's picks up next to get your final football betting in on the weekend.
Maddie, thank you, sir. What is good, everybody? Welcome into 5 Things Super Bowl edition. On the underdog side, we got some higher lowers for the big game this week. My name is Ben Heisler. Hopefully you've been with us here on 5 Things throughout the course of the season and the postseason, and especially of late, because we've been pretty hot, kind of like the Chiefs going into the postseason and then through the postseason. Going back and seeing some of our numbers, a bit of a slow start, but now 16-4 since week 14 of the season, and a lot on the line for us. I know that the Chiefs still have this 3-peat thing that they're discussing, but we're hoping to keep this rolling throughout the course of the Super Bowl as well. If you have not signed up for Underdog, I'm not going to give you one reason to do it, but there's certainly a very good reason. I'm going to give you 2. First of all, this is the one that might feel a little bit familiar. If you do want to sign up for Underdog, we certainly encourage anybody to take advantage and enjoy it the way that we have all throughout the season. If you sign up with promo code KCSN, you can score up to $1,000 in bonus cash on your first deposit. What a great way to enjoy your Super Bowl with an opportunity to get up to $1,000 in bonus cash. You can also get a Super Bowl free pick of Travis Kelce to go higher than 0.5 total yards. I can assure you that you are not going to find a better line on Travis Kelce anywhere. I can get into that line in a little bit, but Underdog is the only place where you can get it as a free pick of higher than 0.5 yards. Also, if you've been with us throughout the course of the year, if you've already made an Underdog account and used that promo code KCSN, also, all players can receive a no sweat offer on a big game entry. What does that mean? That means that you cash if you win, or you get bonus credit back if you lose. So it's basically win-win. Those are the plays. Those are the offers. Let's get into the 3-peat of plays on Underdog for Super Bowl Sunday. Let's start with Patrick Mahomes, shall we? I'm going to go higher than 29.5 rushing yards for number 15. We know that there is a history of Mahomes running around, scrambling, making plays in the postseason. I expect the Super Bowl to be no different. He has a minimum in his 4 Super Bowls of 29 rushing yards. That's just a half tick lower than the number on the board at 29.5. In his 4 Super Bowl appearances, Mahomes has rushed for 29 yards, 33 yards, 44, and 66. Looking at that sort of as an overall average, in the postseason, we're looking at a number of 31.2. This season, that number is actually even higher. He's averaged over 32 rushing yards per game. And if you look at collectively over the course of the regular season, Mahomes has surpassed that number of 29.5 59% of the time. Now here comes the Eagles defense. And yeah, Vic Fangio doesn't blitz a lot of the time for Philadelphia. They've been really good in coverage. But the other thing is, guys, they generate pressure, especially with how Jalen Carter has played over his last probably 7-8 games this year. He's been an absolute wrecking ball. And Mahomes is still going to have to scramble, extend plays, make things happen. And we know that there is a history there, and he's done it throughout the postseason as well. I expect that to continue this Super Bowl. I think the number is still a tad bit too low. We're seeing some of the numbers get projected and puffed up a little bit with his passing yards, but the rushing yards number, especially being below 30, I think is really good value on the board for Pat Mahomes. Next, I'm going to give you a name that maybe you weren't anticipating as another higher play, and that's Samaje Perine. Give me a higher than 6.5 receiving yards for Perine this year. Again, look at it collectively. Are the numbers particularly impressive? No, not really. He averaged 11.5 receiving yards per game. I had 1 reception in 15 out of 17 games during the regular season. Couple things to consider here. The first is that the Eagles have had some trouble against pass catching backs. Again, they don't generate a lot, or they generate a lot of pressure. So oftentimes quarterbacks are going to just dump the ball off to the running back, and then they have to go ahead and close in. So they've averaged about 35.2 receiving yards per game to running backs during the year. And the thing about Perine, again, it goes back to the pressure that Philadelphia is going to put on this team, especially in the pass rush. They trust Samaje Perine more than Kareem Hunt, more than Isaiah Pacheco in pass protection. So you're going to see snaps for Perine, especially on these third down plays. We know that the Chiefs like to be able to try and extend drives. They're not going to make a ton of these big plays downfield the way that they have in seasons past. I think Perine's going to get some volume, and all it takes is really one catch for him to go past that number. Saw the big catch from a couple weeks ago late in the game, which cashed an opportunity for us as well. So I think Perine's number is really, really useful. It's one of the few lines that have not been a bit inflated yet on both the Kansas City or the Eagles side with running backs. So I do like Perine, especially in this spot. More so than the receptions number, which said 1.5. I think the 6.5 on receiving yards for Perine is a great value play and one of my favorites heading into Super Bowl Sunday. Here's the last one. And if you were with us a couple weeks ago for the Buffalo game, there was a similar notion here in fading Travis Kelce. That's not to say that Kelce isn't going to have a meaningful and big game. He's Mahomes' number one target throughout the course of their Super Bowls and their great run together. And I'm not saying he's done, but I am going to go lower than 6.5 receptions for Kelce. And I mentioned this too. Ahead of the Buffalo game, the projected target share was at 9. And even with that unbelievable turn back the hands of clock game against Houston, that number was just still too high. And in the game against Houston, where he had over 100 receiving yards, he still didn't get to 9 targets. 6.5 receptions is a tad bit high. You again, look at his overall numbers. They're exceptional in the playoffs. They're great in the Super Bowl. Talking about a guy with 31 receptions, 350 receiving yards, a couple of touchdowns. The matchup is not good. It really isn't. I think you have to look at it collectively with how good the Eagles have been all season long at stopping tight ends. It's a complete role reversal. Chiefs have been the worst defense in the NFL against stopping tight ends. The Eagles have been the number 1 defense stopping tight ends. Number 1 in the league. They've only allowed an average of 4.5 receptions per game to the position and rank first by a wide margin in receiving yards allowed. Kelce's still going to be there when the opportunity is right. He's still going to move the chains. He's still going to be available for Mahomes, but I don't think he gets to that magic number of 7, knowing how dominant the Eagles have been and recognizing how Kelce impacts the game. I think they want the Chiefs to try to run the ball. They just haven't had the explosive plays that we've seen. I think they want to try to make sure that Kelce is not sitting right in the middle of the field, extending drives and keeping Mahomes on the field. So those are the plays. Again, let's go with Pat Mahomes to go higher than 29.5 rushing yards, Samaje Perine to go higher than 6.5 receiving yards, and Travis Kelce to go lower than 6.5 receptions. Don't forget, use that promo code KCSN. You can claim your free pick and your first time deposit offer up to $1,000 in bonus cash. And all underdog players will receive that no sweat offer on a big game entry. Enjoy the Super Bowl. Let's go get that three-peat, and hopefully you get a little bit of cash along the way on underdog as well. And with that, Maddie, enjoy the game, and I'm sending it back to you, my guy.
Thank you, Benny. We got those marked down. We are ready. We are pocketing those things. We are taking these slips all the way. Here it is, the moment everyone's been waiting for. We've got this far into this show. We've got 5 things that matter between the Chiefs and the Eagles matchup, and we've only had a smidgen of mentioning of the one, the only Patrick Lavon Mahomes. Let's head over to Only Weird Games as they tell you a little bit more about him heading into this matchup. Super Bowl 59 is nearly here, as is the end of this edition of 5 Things. Joshua Briscoe, Seth Kaiser, Nate Taylor, the whole trio from Only Weird Games, and we got our claim in early on this week's topic. So we're going to do something that I think genuinely does need more discussion this week. We're going to talk about Patrick Mahomes. Nate, you have talked at length about the burden. We can also talk about Patrick Mahomes, the football player, and the fact that, as I'll give you credit, Seth, as Seth said as we were deciding on our topic today, only one team truly has an all-encompassing equalizer. If Patrick Mahomes plays perfect football, the Kansas City Chiefs complete the three-peat. Is that going to happen? What could be the bump in the road for Mahomes? What do you expect from number 15?
Well, Josh, let's see. He's in a dome. He's had 2 weeks of rest and more treatment. He's had 2 weeks of practice time with Hollywood Brown and Xavier Worthy and Travis Kelce. I'm sure they've worked on some trick plays between here and now. He really only made one major mistake against the Buffalo Bills, and the Chiefs scored 32 points. So the greatest quarterback I have ever seen who's played in these games could potentially very similar to Joe Montana in Super Bowl, I believe, 1989, when they threw up 55 on them boys from Denver. That was Joe Montana's crowning achievement, where it was just like, okay, he's ascended to another level. We've obviously seen what Tom Brady has done. But I mean, I got eyes, right? I mean, Patrick Mahomes is the best quarterback I've ever seen. If he demonstrates that anywhere close, he will have separated himself from Joe Montana and Tom freaking Brady. The maturity, the physical gifts, the mental acumen, it could be the perfect recipe for an absolute virtuoso performance. And that should give Chiefs fans great excitement, because it really could happen, guys. I cannot stress enough. And Seth, you know this. He was nearly flawless against the Buffalo Bills.
Yep. And that's a team that does everything it can to take away his favorite player in Travis Kelce, who, there's so much legacy stuff to talk about. We could have picked Kelce too, because it's so easy these days to talk about the Chiefs and not talk about Patrick Mahomes, Travis Kelce, and Chris Jones, because they are, 2 of the 3 are easily first ballot Hall of Famers. I think Chris Jones, they win this Super Bowl. I think Jones is a first ballot. I think he probably already is, and he should be. But with Mahomes, don't get numb to the stats that you see. The playoff record, the winning percentage, the percentage of drives. I know you guys covered this, where, you're in a position to tie or win the game, and he just always moves the ball. Go back and look at the fourth quarter in playoffs and look at what they've largely done when it really matters. When this is it, you've got one actual failure by Mahomes in his entire career in the this is it moment, and that was against the Bengals in 2021, 4 years ago now. Basically, everyone's forgotten about it except Bengals fans. Man, I never don't do that, by the way. I don't know why. I don't know why. I'm sorry, Bengals fans, sort of. So don't lose sight of the stats. He is the greatest quarterback I've ever seen play. I charted him, comparing him to, 2018 Tom Brady and 2011 Aaron Rodgers. I compared him to multiple other guys because that 2011 Aaron Rodgers, that was supposed to be the pinnacle. It was supposed to be guys can't play better quarterback than this. Then Patrick Mahomes came along. And the difference between him and Rodgers
One
is
of the
that's
differences
also
between him and Rodgers.
one of several differences is he's also collected the accolades and the wins to go along with the statistics. He's been every version of a quarterback. He can win any way, any version of quarterback that you need. Picture the highest level of it. He can be that. He can be your scrambler at the highest level. He can be your pocket winner at the highest level. He can be your creator, but not scrambling at the highest level. He can win pre-snap and post-snap. He is the one player where if he plays at his absolute best, it's almost impossible for the Chiefs to lose. Now, certain other things can go wrong, all kinds of stuff. But if he plays at his best, a number of other catastrophes have to occur for them to lose. And he's the only player like that for either team. Don't lose sight of that, what a special thing this is, because, again, a three-peat. Only 3 times. No one else has even really had a realistic shot at it. No one else has even come this far. No one else made it back to the Super Bowl. He's come farther than anyone else. He does this. And the Brady bros and Tom Brady, greatest winner in NFL history for now. He wins this. He's now separated himself from Joe Montana you can't, it's either him or Tom. I would argue they're already there, but be that as it may. And there's always going to be, well, he beat him head to head. Yep. And Tom Brady never three-peated. Never could do it. Couldn't lead his team to 3 in a row. You know who did? Patrick Mahomes II. And so there's an opportunity here. And I guarantee you, if they do win, and I think they will, if they do win, you know what the first thing you're going to hear when the mic'd up comes out? You're going to hear him talking to Travis Kelce on that stage saying, man, we got to do 4. We got to do 4. No one could ever touch 4 because that's who he is. He's a total, complete, wonderful psychopath. And I'm just so excited to see what this brings. It's going to be stressful but fun in the biggest possible way. I can't wait to see what Mahomes does to add to his Super Bowl accolades, because the legend of him has only grown, and this is his chance right here. This is the chance to separate himself from Brady for the first time in the first meaningful way. That gives you, okay, well, Brady's got 7 and he's only got 4, but he never three-peated, baby. He never three-peated, and having a shot at 4, which I guarantee you will be the next thing. I want 4. So that's what I'm looking for.
Enjoy it, Chiefs fans. We'll talk to you after the Super Bowl.
Boom. That's it. That's 5 things, 5 different things to look for heading into this Chiefs-Eagles Super Bowl rematch coming up this Sunday. We appreciate you guys for tuning in this week, for listening and hanging out with us and, supporting us this entire all season. You guys have been amazing. Great. We always appreciate it. 5 different things to watch in this game. We've had 20 weeks of this now. That's a lot of different things we've had going on here. 200 different things to watch all season long. That's a lot. We appreciate you guys hanging out for all of them. And don't forget, after the Super Bowl, win, lose, they can't tie. So win or lose, whether we're going to be sad, angry, happy, full of joy, whatever it is, we will be live on the KCSN YouTube channel doing our live post-game show. Hopefully it will be like the last 2 years and we will be celebrating a big win. It's going to be. But either way, we will be there and we hope you guys will join us then. Go Chiefs.